I'm really excited to be here and moderating this panel with an esteemed set of speakers. The last time I was here at GTS, I moderated a panel on AI regulation. The topic for today's session is the promise of artificial intelligence, which just, I think, goes to show the tonal shift that's taken place in just a matter of months. But I think we're going to be able to cover a lot of ground. I think over the last couple of days, through the closed-door discussions, the sessions in the morning, there are three themes that I think we want to cover in today's session. The first is this idea that we want to make sure AI is accessible to everyone, this idea of inclusive AI. It's something that Prime Minister Modi has talked about in various forums. It's something that the UN has advocated for. So I'd love to get the thoughts from the panelists on that point. The second is this idea that there have been some fundamental breakthroughs in AI, whether it's the DeepSeek moment, the rise of reasoning models, AI agents, and so on, and what does that mean for India, the global south, and the world. And the third is the larger question of cooperation and global governance, right? While this is obviously the panel on the promise, there are potentially some risks that we might want to talk about. So with those three themes in mind, I would love for this to be a quick rapid-fire type of discussion, so request you all to keep your comments to a couple of minutes. I'd love to get all of you involved on these topics. Mr. Singh, if I can start with you. As I said, Prime Minister Modi has been very vocal on this idea of democratizing access to AI. He made a speech at the Paris summit. You, as the head of the India AI mission, have really made this central to India's strategy, whether it's democratizing access to compute, whether it's making safety tools widely accessible. How does this all tie in together in this idea of inclusive AI?
So like whenever you mentioned that you spoke about AI regulation and trying to make AI more responsive last time. So whenever you think of making AI more inclusive, more responsive, the first and foremost thing that is required is that it has to be bias free. So whatever models we train our, whatever data sets the models are trained on, or whatever the outcomes they come out with, has to be inclusive, has to be more representative. Unfortunately, most of the AI that we see today is limited to a few countries and a few companies. In order to harness the true potential and to take AI across and to ensure that the larger community of people are not only AI consumers, but they are active partners, active stakeholders in development of AI-based solutions, you need to make inclusive. But how do you do that? You make compute accessible, you make datasets accessible, you make algorithms accessible, you make models available. Open source might be the way to go forward, so that more and more people can understand how it works, assign different weights on the models and build applications. And that would actually make truly AI meaningful for the large number of people. If you can do that, then you will see wonderful applications coming out of AI which can transform healthcare, which can transform education, which can transform farming, which can transform lives of the people. And that will be the true value that you will get when you make AI inclusive.
Thank you. We'll definitely have some follow-up questions on that and how the rest of the world sees this idea of inclusivity, because it seems like there's some tension there, but I'll come back to you on that. Secretary Schnorr, the last time on the panel on regulation, EU was top of mind for everyone. There was an AI Act that many people wanted to copy. I think all of those ideas have been shelved. What's the conversation in EU on regulation, of course, but if you can just touch on the theme for this panel, which is on the opportunity side. What's the thinking? We heard Mr. Singh talk about inclusivity. This is about access. How is EU thinking about industrial policy in terms of making AI more accessible, and to whom?
I think the most important thing is that AI changes everything in our life. AI is reshaping our economies, our societies, everything, how we make decisions, and therefore it is in our interest, I think in all of our interests, that artificial intelligence is trustworthy, is reliable, that it protects our rights, that it is human-centric. And therefore, we need some rules. We need guardrails for the developers of AI, so that we can guarantee that AI is in the benefit of the people and not against the people. And therefore, it was indeed the EU AI Act was the first regulation in this field on the market, with the aim, on the one hand, to push innovation and to enable innovation in this field in the context of clear rules. and on the other hand, to guarantee, as I mentioned, that AI will protect our rights. So the EU AI Act is now comes into force, and the EU Commission yesterday announced that they want to review the EU AI Act and to see if there are parts of the AI Act that indeed hindered innovation within the European Union or worldwide. So we are open for such a discussion. So we need rules, but we don't want to have rules that hinder innovation. So if we can find a better way, if we have to think about some changes in the EU AI Act, the European Commission and also we are very open for this. But the EU AI Act is only one part of the regulation. You know, we have within the G7 and India agreed to this. We have the Hiroshima Code of Conduct for artificial intelligence. We have reporting of the framework at the moment. So I think what is important for us that we have similar rules worldwide for artificial intelligence. Digitization knows no borders, and therefore we need these similar rules. We have to work on this in different fora, and also we use our digital dialogue from Germany with India and also from the European Union with India to find the best solutions. We don't have perhaps the ideal answer at the moment, but therefore we have to discuss it. But without regulation, without rules, I think it is not possible to use AI in a trustworthy manner.
Sure. Thank you, Secretary. Sandeep, if I can come to you, big focus obviously in the India AI strategy and the mission is public-private partnership. So I'm sure Mr. Singh will agree that this idea of inclusive AI relies a lot on companies like Microsoft supporting that vision. So do you agree with this idea that inclusive AI is what's going to be able to realize the full potential of AI, and how are you planning to support this vision?
Absolutely, and there is no other way. It's a general purpose technology, and what we have seen in history, that what happened with electricity or with the internet, that if some communities or some nations or some places it reached late, it set them too far behind in time, and we can't let that happen with AI. And I think India as a country where AI can solve citizen scale problems, and the world in general, global south looks at India as a tech leader. I think inclusivity is the mainstay, absolutely, and I think all the private partnerships, all the companies, all of us together, absolutely committed. And there are examples, right, where India has been doing really, really well, right? I mean, there are examples like Bhashini, eSanjeevani, right? Abhishek sir has been leading, wonderful scale. There has been examples like Karya, where AI is being used for not just annotation but employment generation. And then there are examples in Baramati with ADT, Pharma.ai, that where farmers are able to use AI and actually change their income levels by 30–40%, right? And then there are applications where AI is being used for specially able children to enhance their learning. So I think the potential is huge, and the potential will not get done without getting the scale of inclusivity. And I think the scope and the objective which India AI mission has, and the way the compute facility got done with the PPP model, I think that's the model to go. Eventually, all of us, all the companies, government, all of us have to come together and make it happen. Absolutely.
Thanks, Sandeep. I started with a very simple, straightforward question. Is inclusive AI something that you would support? I expected that answer. I'm going to now push you, and also Sabastian and Aditi, the three execs here from US companies, because a theme we've seen at the summit is that it seems to be that India and several other parts of the world want to support this idea of inclusive AI, which involves access to AI, global diffusion of AI. But we're seeing, obviously from the US government, some desire to control advanced AI technologies through export control regulations. And also some US tech companies have taken some steps to look at issues of equity from a responsible AI lens very differently. There are some companies, for example, who've taken out the reference to equity from their responsible AI principles very recently. Tough question, but any responses? Sebastian, Aditi, Sandeep? How do we balance these two?
Slowly pulling up my microphone here. No, look, I would come at it probably as follows. Look, at Salesforce, whether it's ourselves sort of as a global trusted tech platform, right, across countries, sectors, and communities, or our Agentforce platform, which is our trusted agentic AI, right, platform, bringing together humans with digital labor, right, to sort of drive success, is we do see this being a multinational kind of opportunity. It's a global opportunity. We think that to drive ultimate success, maybe the question to be asked is, should AI be a human right? And to really think about it, because now we all understand what are the incredible opportunities, right? What the upside is. I think we also see what the downside is if you have uneven adoption, right? If we see, inequalities and whatnot be exacerbated, whether that's within communities, whether it's within countries, whether it's within regions, right, and the like. And so, as we kind of look at that, one of the risks around will the promise of AI be fulfilled is that you don't have widespread adoption, right, and deployment. And part of that means, right, how do you have all of these different kind of communities and companies and countries, right, sort of that are in need and see this, view the AI technology, particularly agentic layers as such, as being kind of enterprise grade, enterprise ready, right? Being deserving of the trust that's necessary, right, to drive adoption. And we think with all of that, you ultimately have to have ecosystems of trust, ecosystems of customer stakeholder success, right? Ecosystems of innovation, ecosystems of equality, and ecosystems of sustainability. And it's going to take, the right kind of coordinated approaches and viewing these items from really a kind of a global multinational lens so that all of the stakeholders here can really achieve the success that may have been kind of long overdue, right, sort of for many groups. But we're going to have to find ways to overcome the pull of fragmentation, right, and all these challenges that we're sort of all facing, because as was noted, the only path forward, right, is more widespread adoption and deployment of a responsible approach to innovation.
Great. Thanks, Sebastian. So a couple of points, threads that we'll definitely pick up. Adoption and challenges we heard from Mr. Nilikani about, the challenges of adoption. We'll definitely get the panel's thoughts on that. 2, AI is a human right. Interesting. We should pick up on that. And 3rd, this idea that this is a multilateral issue, and we probably need global cooperation and governance. So these are 3 threads we'll definitely kind of pick up on. But you mentioned agentic AI, right? And I just want to segue to that piece. And Aditi, if I can come to you. Agentic AI, reasoning models, these large language models that are generative in nature, they're very powerful. Sebastian was talking about this being a human right. But what we're also seeing on the flip side is these could really disrupt the workforce, right? We're really thinking at potential job losses at a massive scale. As someone having a very close view of this at LinkedIn, what is your data telling you about potential disruption in the job market? How should we be preparing from this from a skilling perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we cannot do a lot of crystal ball gazing, but I'll tell you what trends we're seeing on LinkedIn. So we have about 1 billion members right now worldwide. We're the world's largest professional platform, 69 million companies, 40,000 skills, 134,000 colleges. And the way these data points intersect with each other, it gives us a nuanced, real-time worldview of what's happening in the labor market force. And we've been looking at it for the last 2 years, especially since Gen AI sort of broke on the scene, on what are the changes that we can notice happening in the labor market. And you're right, since last year, I think we've moved away from the conversation that AI is going to take away all jobs. I think we've become a little bit more nuanced in our understanding. What we have concluded is that by 2030, 70% of the skills required to do any of our jobs is going to change. AI, no AI, the way we've done jobs, the skills required to do jobs will change. And it is not something new. We looked at the top 10 most desirable jobs today. And we realized that 8 out of 10 of those did not even exist in 2000. Social media manager, data engineer, none of those jobs even existed. So I think this seems like the cycles that have happened before, and it's not the first time that we'll be dealing with it. But as Sandeep mentioned, this is a general purpose technology. It's going to change. It's going to change more than just the tech industry. So what we've done is we've broken up jobs into its component tasks and skills. And we've studied for each job the tasks and skills that make up that job, how many of those are replicable by Gen AI. And basis that, we classify jobs into 3 categories: jobs that are likely to be disrupted, jobs that are likely to be augmented, and jobs that are likely to be insulated from Gen AI and AI. So I think what our recommendation to businesses and to governments is that if there is a job group where there are tasks or skills that are very easily replicable by Gen AI, those are the jobs that are at risk. And those are the ones that need businesses and policymakers to come together to figure out how can we help that group of workers move from those jobs to the next. To give an example, admin assistant, highly replicable by Gen AI, right? But we also saw that 50% of tasks and skills required to be an admin assistant is also required by someone who does event coordinator, which is an insulated job, which with Gen AI or AI cannot do. The second thing that, and we've spoken about inclusivity a little bit, what we're seeing is that we're sort of at the ground floor, the first floor of this transformation and revolution right now. And we're already seeing inequities. For instance, 16% of worldwide AI talent is women or female, right? We're at the ground floor. We can fix this instead of trying to retrofit it as we go down the lane. The second thing we're seeing is that young workers are going to be more affected by Gen AI and AI than more mature workers. And why that is when Gen AI can do a lot of your repetitive and the mundane tasks, what becomes important then are our human skills. Critical thinking, leadership, communication, empathy, all of that. That comes with experience. So, somebody fresh out of college who usually is running behind bosses making notes, that is replicable by Gen AI, and he or she doesn't have the runway to have those soft skills. And the last bit, I know you put a mic up, and the last bit that I want to mention here is that this is the first time that we feel that a technology revolution is going to disproportionately affect graduate and the more educated part of the workforce. Typically, it's always been blue collar workers and gray collar workers. So this is something that we've not navigated before.
Okay, thanks, Aditi. Interesting insights. Rohit, I'm going to come to you. We heard now about the impact on humans, on people. What's the impact going to be on companies, right? You represent a large Indian IT services company. Aditi talked about how AI is going to be able to do a lot of the mundane, routine work. Have you paid some attention to potentially what aspects of the outsourcing IT services industry are likely to be automated or made redundant or taken over in some ways, tasks, not jobs, by AI? And how are you thinking about what the promise of some of these new technologies are, whether it's agents or reasoning models and so on in a company like TCS?
Yeah, thank you. So how TCS, we have learning from more than 56 countries globally as a presence and with a client and experience. So automation and implications of Gen AI or agentic AI is there. It's happening and the change is happening. The only breather or only kind of from skilling perspective is reskilling. You have to do reskilling, relearn internally. We are a strength of more than 6 lakh plus employees, which is huge as a ship, one ship. And the effort on reskilling and retraining on AI and foundational understanding has to be with everybody. So that is imperative, which is internally also there. And of course, government is also through various initiatives is playing a part on it. Now coming to the point of promise of AI and how we see this is, so when I put it, in terms of Indianness of AI and think, government, like Abhishek sir is here through, the amazing AI mission, creating those capacities for the India to build on. But also we need to, learn from the DPI success story of India. And which is that after building 10 out of 8 DPGs of India, some TCS solution has intersected. So the learning from those public sector projects is that it has changed the lives of citizens of people. So if AI has to do that, perhaps there are two important things that we need to have in India to especially make it ground up and running in India, which is number one is having the sovereign infra capabilities. Because it is paramount of importance that Indian IT Act, Indian regulatory complete framework, privacy, everything has a sovereign component. Yes, there is a global cooperation on standards and everything we are trying to charter ways and we will work on it globally, bilaterally, through diplomatic channels. But we need to build those inherent capability at a country. And being an Indian company, I think we are a strong advocate of having our offering in the sense of building those sovereign capability and infrastructure. And industry also has to do that bit. Second point would be the use cases. I think the public sector use cases that solves the problem of the India, maybe on traffic, pollution, various sectors. I think that those models, if we do it at this scale in India, we can implement it any geography globally. If we do it like we did it for DPI. So I think these are the two things I feel as a paramount importance. If we can achieve that, we will definitely, add a lot of value to the citizens, and we can take those services and build from business point of view globally from various geographies, and especially the global south.
Okay, thanks, Rohit. Two things you just said: sovereign AI infrastructure, use cases. I'm going to pick up on both of those things. Shalini, I'll come to you on use cases next. But Mr. Singh, if I can just touch on this idea of sovereign AI infrastructure that Rohit just mentioned. One of the big initiatives recently announced is this idea that India is going to support the development of an indigenous AI model, right? You told me there were 100+ applications that you've received, so I know you're still in the process of reviewing that. But what have you seen? Because from one of the, I think, threads that we've seen at this summit is that the DeepSeek moment was really, a bit of an eye-opener for us in India. We realized we could do more with less, or we could potentially, and it doesn't have to be particularly from a certain country. As you're reviewing these applications, right, are you getting a sense that there could be something revolutionary, a big breakthrough that an Indian company might be making at the model layer of the stack? And if not, in general, what are you looking for, right, as you're approving this application? Is it efficiency? Is it use cases? Is it relevance? How are you reviewing these applications? What have you seen so far?
Reviewing applications and taking up research and building models are two different things. Like whether we launched this call for proposals for building foundation models or not, there were researchers, there were startups, there were companies who are already working on that. It's not that they would not have. The challenge is to make funding available for the compute that is required. Because training models is a very cost intensive thing. It requires a lot of GPUs, it requires a lot of money, and then very often for this kind of work, getting VC money is also not easy. So we are just enabling availability of compute by providing funding support to that and trying to support those who are best suited to make the models. Just giving money also will not ensure that we get a model. Ultimately, it will depend on the kind of talent that we have, kind of ability that we have, the way they architect it, the way they design it. We strongly believe that talent is something that we do have, that is evidenced by the number of GitHub. In fact, the Stanford AI Index report was there, and last week there was a report of GitHub AI projects where we ranked number 2 after the United States in number of projects coming from India. So we have the talent, we have the data sets, and if we are able to provide compute and funding support for the compute, we would believe that a foundation model will come in, because these are the ingredients that are required. And building a foundation model is not rocket science. Many models are coming in on a daily basis these days. It's very often, many people say it's commoditized. Just providing the necessary support and the necessary ingredients and ensuring that the best and the most talented ones will come out and build something.
So if I can summarize, Mr. Singh, we have the talent, we have the data, you are going to provide the compute. These seem like essential ingredients for some big breakthrough in model development in India. So you're optimistic that India can produce something that's
very optimistic.
Okay, good to hear that. Shalini, you've recently joined Ekstep Foundation. Obviously, big emphasis on use cases, as Rohit was talking about. He alluded to the fact that DPI when integrated with AI, and we've heard this phrase DPI plus AI as DPI into AI. How are you thinking about the promise of AI in this context, right? Is there, when we think about the DPI success story, the thing that often comes up is UPI. Have you already contemplated or have you already seen evidence of a specific human interest, social impact of AI when integrated with DPI?
Sure. So see, with DPI, what we got is, and I will just explain that, while I come from the big tech and I've understood what technologies are getting built, and now I am understanding the citizen scale applications that can be created, and we're talking about billion plus population to start with. What is important is in DPI we solved two things. One is the ease of use, and also the adopters coming in. And adopters are not users. Users are who are using the system, but adopters are like the banks and various other ecosystem people who came to it. So the widespread reach happened with DPI. Now with AI, there is a challenge which we have to marry with DPI. And the AI, the challenge is, first of the locked data that we have, right? There's a lot of data. So is there a mechanism? And that's what I'm working on, is that what is a mechanism to unlock that data which people are not opening up either because of fear or because of confusion. So because of fear, you don't want to, I don't know what will go into LLM, and with confusion, I don't know which tool to use. So you're getting completely bogged down with not opening up your data. So a federated data architecture with open protocols which can be used, and I stress upon open protocols because there are some really good protocols which are out there in the market, like the Model Context Protocol which came out, the Google Agent-to-Agent Architecture Protocol which came out in the open. So there are open standards which are there, which need to be used to give factual data. Right? In India, when we become users, the factual data will become most important because you don't want hallucination. You want actual farmer to know what to do about crop advisory and not have wrong information given out. So the whole data federated architecture, that's one part which has to be married to DPI. And the other part is the context. And Nandan did talk about it in the morning also. It has to be personalized. It has to be very relevant to what the question you are asking. Because when you are taking it to scale, when you are taking it to millions of people, then the context of your query, context of the answer that you want has to be absolutely relevant. So there has to be more work. And the work can be done by researchers coming together in this, right? With the time frame which has come down, it's like the Linux moment which we had. Linux came out in the open, and there were several organizations who built on top of the Linux stack. We should actually do that in India, that build on top of the open protocols to solve for our use cases which are in agri, which are in education, which are in health. So that build has to happen only with research combining with the DPI principles and the layers which have been laid down.
Thanks, Shalini. Sabastian, I'm going to come to you next. Just trying to tie together a couple of threads here, right? AI needs to be personalized for it to be useful and effective. AI needs to be inclusive, which means it needs to be in the hands of everyone. You mentioned AI agents. Can you paint me a picture of what this looks like? In the future, a couple of years from now, AI agents are going to be personalized to each individual at population scale. If that's the vision, I think what's going to be really important is trust. How are you thinking about this issue? And if I can also ask, this is obviously at an individual level, is this going to, do we have to be thinking about this differently at an enterprise level? Do they have different ways about thinking about deploying agents in the context of trust and safety and security?
Look, you've hit the, I think, fundamental and kind of most centering issue, which is trust, right? So how do you deploy, and develop and implement agents, right? Which again, what are these agents, right? Fundamentally, it's going to be a future where you have humans with agents, humans with AI, right? Defining and driving, right? Stakeholder success, right? Whatever the mission may be, right? Of that community, of that team, of that company, of that government, right? What does an agent-first government look like, right? What do agent-first, companies that work where again you have, there's a line that says, the CEOs of today's companies, will this be the last generation of CEOs that are managing only human workforces, right? What will it mean, right, to manage, human with agent workforces, coming together? It's going to also be a world where, if it's the world that we're hopefully defining together and have the future that we wish it to occur, it's going to be one that will have governance, guardrails, right, and guidance, around it. And not viewing those types of elements of, ethics and responsibility and integrity and privacy and security as blockers to innovation, but actually core, again, to the adoption and deployment that is needed to have, and you asked this question, what does it mean to have an enterprise-grade, enterprise-ready, government, sort of ready, government quality system that leads to the benefits for constituencies, right? For citizens, for customers, right? Look, what it also is going to have to mean is that we have trust at scale, right? And so you have to have frameworks that are interoperable, right? You're going to have frameworks that are, risk-aligned and risk-minded and roles-based. But it also has to include, I think, a very, again, human-centering piece, which is that the technology must be empowering and elevating. Because some of the themes that we've been talking about today, not just inclusion, but sort of this, the positive aspect of this, is that it must be kind of, even these use cases, generated and informed by, right, actual lived experience, right, of the people, of the communities, look, of the companies. You think of the latest stats, and this applies, unfortunately, pretty consistently across regions, right? Most, they say, small, medium-sized businesses, right, sort of they fail for various reasons. But what if, right, small and medium-sized businesses, when augmented by, this form of agentic AI, right, sort of the humans at these businesses with the right form of trusted, responsible, digital labor, what if these small and medium-sized businesses start to succeed at scale? Right? We must have that, right, sort of as part, of this future. But again, how do we have it be empowering? How do we have people not be fearful, right? And the only way people are not going to be fearful about it is, yes, if it has trust at the center, but actually if they're involved in creating it and defining it, right, sort of at every single level. And I think that's what, I think governments, and again, I think the big issue about this, it can't just be a regulatory conversation, right? It has to be this shared responsibility between governments, public sector, private sector, academia, right? Nonprofits. At Salesforce, we called it as Agentforce Accelerator for Impact for nonprofits. Because what do we want? What do we think countries want? What do countries want? They want resilience, they want leadership, right? What is it the companies want? They want to innovate responsibly, but fundamentally transform their organizations. And what do citizens want? Citizens want to know they're not going to be left behind. So again, when you pull all of that together, you have to have the right kind of collaboration to drive impact, right, at scale, with speed, but always in trust. And that's not just the challenge, but that's actually the opportunity and the mandate.
It's an opportunity, it's a challenge. Let's pick up on that thread. We have about 15 minutes left. Secretary Schnorr, if I can ask you to answer a couple of questions, because I think some interesting points raised by Sebastian. We need interoperable governance frameworks. The last time, as we were talking about regulation, we saw such a completely fragmented approach around the world, right? There was the US free markets approach, a state-led Chinese approach, a rights-based EU approach. India had a kind of a middle ground. What's the thinking in the EU now with respect to the need for more collaboration and cooperation and harmonization of governance frameworks around the world? And do you think there's an opportunity for Germany and India to collaborate and to kind of touch on again another point Sebastian made, where this is actually about best practices and about shared responsibilities? And is this a conversation that startups in Germany should be having with startups in India?
So that's indeed the foundation of the digital dialogue that we have with the MeitY, with the Indian government, to discuss these topics together between Germany, Europe, and India on both sides. You asked Mr. Singh from the MeitY before if the next big thing, the next big model perhaps will come from India. I would be happy if it would come from India. I would be happy if it would come from a democratic state. This is, for me, important, and in so far, DeepSeek was a very good example that we don't need $100 million, but $5 million are enough to develop such models, and therefore I think also our dialogue can support the relevant experts in our countries, in India, in Germany, to work on such new models and to bring the expertise together so that we will perhaps in the next year everything is possible, nothing is impossible, that we will have in the next years the next big thing, the next big model also from India or from Europe, why not, yeah? So, and therefore, as Mr. Singh said, we have to fulfill some requirements. Computing is very important so that they have access to computing. We have an excellent R&D scene in Germany, but we have a gap in bringing the results from the R&D into products, into applications. This is much better and much faster in India, so we can learn from each other. And therefore, we have these digital dialogues, not only with India, also with other countries in the world. And I think these digital dialogues are not only government to government. They integrate all stakeholders, yeah? Business, academia, society, to bring all the people together on one table and to see what can we as governments do to support the experts to bring, to go to the next situation. And what you mentioned is indeed extremely important for India and for Germany, the SMEs. SMEs are the backbones of our economies in India and also in Germany. Most people know the bigger companies from Germany, but also the backbone of our economy are SMEs. And therefore, it's our task to support SMEs. We have a lot of competence centers in Germany to support SMEs by implementing of AI. At the moment, about 25% of the SMEs in Germany use AI. 25% is okay, but there is a gap for 75%, so we have to do more in this direction. And I think especially for SMEs, the use and AI applications can revolutionize their business model. They can optimize, we are an industry-led country, they can optimize the production with artificial intelligence, and therefore the supporting of SMEs is a very important topic for both of our countries, and therefore within our digital dialogue we are just working on an exchange of SMEs and associations from India, from Germany in the next weeks, so to bring them together on one table and to see how can we support SMEs in using AI and in building up new AI applications.
Thank you, Secretary. I think that pivots nicely to, what I think will be the last thread that we want to kind of address on this panel, an opportunity for collaboration at a global level. We have Mr. Singh, who's going to be leading the work on the India AI Summit, which we now know will happen early next year. I just want to get some thoughts from the room on what we want to get out of that, right, in terms of outcomes, right, in terms of consensus building. What are these issues probably that we want to help resolve? So I'll start with you, Rohit, and I'll just go down the line, and I'll come to you, Mr. Singh, at the end once you've heard everyone. Rohit, what are you looking to get out of the summit, and how does a company like TCS help support realize that?
Well, to us, inclusive and democratizing AI, I think is the theme. If that's the theme, probably in terms of how it is different from the previous summits which has happened and what we are targeting can achieve. And in terms of industry, as TCS or Tata Group are part of the industry, how can we meaningfully contribute is we would also like to learn from the government that what's they're looking at and expecting. And our learnings of implementing at scale in India, we would like to bring that to the notice of the world, that what we are capable of, perhaps. Because those learnings are not only just solving the problems of India, we can take it forward, and it helps both ways. Secretary mentioned, Germany SMEs from both the parts. So can we showcase that as what India has achieved, and also take other global learnings. And we have learnings on various technology platforms and things working in different geographies. So we would like to bring that element definitely, that's what I could think as of now. It's very far, and we would like to understand from the government that what exactly we're trying to achieve. Perhaps we can calibrate upon that going forward. Thank you.
So showcase some solutions, but also use that as a forum to learn from global experience. Aditi?
I think from LinkedIn's perspective, our vision and mission is to bring economic opportunity to every person in the global workforce. And with the AI transformation, I think what we've heard is that we should do it in a way that we don't leave anyone behind. It is a technology, but there are people at the core of it. So how do we keep the human capital question central to the AI transformation question? I think we spoke about SMBs. SMBs is 90% of businesses, but they're also 50% of the workforce. So how do we ensure that collaboratively with policymakers, business companies such as ourselves, academia, we ensure that there is AI technical skilling, there is AI literacy for people who don't actually, who are not going to actually develop the models, but will have to use it in their professional lives. And how do we keep soft skills such as critical thinking, communication, all of that core to this transformation?
Can you just follow up? Is there some consensus that we need to build on any of these issues at a forum like the summit? Or is the understanding clear and across the board?
I think we will have to develop that, but my intervention here is that we keep the human capital conversation as part of the summit as well.
So I'm going to skip you. I'm going to come to Sandeep, and then I want you to come in just before Mr. Singh. Sandeep?
Yeah, sure. So on the summit, I think we can focus on 2 or 3 things. First one, obviously, the AI security piece, responsible AI piece is paramount. I think the inclusivity and the AI diffusion piece on how do we bring that into the conversation, how do we make sure that inclusive AI and AI diffusion is center of the conversation. This is also a great opportunity to showcase development, solutions, application layer development on AI happening in India, what can be, which can transform Global South, other countries as well. And I think the summit also provides a great opportunity to show public-private partnership in a way that, how can we all come together as one, like what can we do as Microsoft, what can Carnegie do, what can, other, bodies do. Let's put our minds together and see, what kind of tracks develop, who can own what, and really come together to, make it shine.
Sabastian?
Well, I certainly will return to India prior to the summit, but I hope to have the honor of being, at the, India, having the opportunity to lead the summit. So what would I hope to see? I would hope to see a very defined, ambitious, practical, clear vision for what is shared stakeholder success with AI at scale, with speed and trust look like. Right? Really sort of, yes, the use cases across the industries, right? Across, governments, and sort of different sort of governmental agencies. Because what do we really need to have, And I kind of think about each of the summits that have come, but I also think of how the technology, right, has just continued to massively accelerate, right? Sort of early days. And what, is clear is it's basically, right, trust plus inclusivity driving impact, right? So what will be that vision delivered? And that summit is actually, like we're talking about here, what if it can be an empowering, right, time together? What if it's an enabling time together? What if it's an elevating time together where every person who attends and every, community that attends, every company that attends, sort of every sort of, public sector policymaker that attends leaves with an action plan, with an impact plan to deliver on the promise of artificial intelligence in a way that creates and propels the type of society and community that we believe we've all been waiting for.
Thanks,
Sebastian.
Sebastian.
Just one quick thing. One thing that I feel like from this point is that AI standard, discussion on standards and also the cooperation framework, because it's going to be a global event. I think that is also a very, very important piece.
Sure. Shalini, you've been doing a lot of thinking on AI governance as well. We were doing a brainstorming on ideas for the AI summit yesterday, and one of the narratives that came out is we're moving from a safety-focused summit, which was at Bletchley, to an action-oriented summit in Paris, and now an impact summit. What is the conversation on governance and risk mitigation, and should that feature in the summit in some way? How are you thinking about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say one thing that, for the Impact Summit, we should take one large scale challenge. One large scale challenge which folds everything into this, which is citizen scale, multi-language, already working in Bhashani. That large scale challenge has to dazzle the world by our multi-language, by our citizens, and by the responsible way of building it. So all the research work, the technology work that we are doing, we have to work backwards. We have 7 months. We have to, or maybe even a little bit more than that. We have to just work backwards, fold everything into one large-scale challenge, which we will announce on that summit, and let everybody fold into that, which is absolutely, changing, and it's like, or I could say a Mangalyaan event rather than a DeepSeek event. It has to be, our own event.
Okay, interesting. Secretary Schnorr, I'll come to you next.
Yes, I think we all here in the room and we all fully agree about what we mentioned before, that we need human-centric AI, that we need safety, that we need security, and that we have to protect our rights and so on. And these topics we have focused during the last AI summits. And therefore my wish is indeed we have to go into action now. We have to implement AI. We have to bring AI on the market, and therefore a focus on the summit from my point of view has to be to show best practices. So what can we do with artificial intelligence, and to define where are the barriers for companies to develop AI and to bring it on the market, and to work on these barriers. This is, from my point of view, very, very important, because we have obstacles. Yeah? What do we need so that companies in India, in Germany, in Europe, and so on, can faster bring these ideas in products, in applications on the market, and to see where are the barriers and what can we do against this. We also can discuss again about all the other topics and the guardrails for artificial intelligence, but I think we have discussed it enough, so now we have to do it into practice. This is one extreme relevant point, and the other perhaps, and this is perhaps a part of the obstacles, do we need more standards, and what can we do to focus faster on standardization in the field of artificial intelligence as a precondition to bring it on the market, not only in India, not only in Europe, but that we have the interoperability to bring it in the market worldwide.
Mr. Singh, I want you to have the last word. Like I said, we did some closed-door brainstorming discussions on potential themes, outcomes, processes. We'll give you that report soon. But again, your vision for the summit, briefly. But also, I want to tie it back to this initial idea about inclusivity, right? Which seems to be the theme that's going to be driving India Summit. And this idea that for a summit, usually what makes a successful summit is a declaration, a ministerial declaration at the end of this. And if all of the world agrees on that, that's great. Unfortunately, in Paris, it seemed that at least the US government was not in favor of the inclusion of the word inclusion or inclusivity. Would it still be a successful summit if the US government didn't sign on to a political consensus document that's thematically focused on inclusive AI?
See, like I would ideally not comment on what went into the Paris summit and why the US did not sign. In fact, the Paris summit, they worked very hard and a lot of outcomes were there. The declaration, primarily it was the reason for not having enough time with the transitions happening in both UK and US. One administration transitioning, and probably they did not have enough time to get the consensus around. Having said that, what we are looking at our summit will be kind of, this is the fourth summit. In the series of summits, it was safety at Bletchley, followed by safety and innovation at Korea, and then action at Paris. And so we are trying to look at it as an impact summit, because it has been like, it will be almost 2 years since the safety issue was highlighted at Bletchley by experts and the scientific panel, which looked into what all dangers lie from AI. So while those issues remain, but we also come to realize over the various discussion, negotiations, there's a lot more than just the safety and security aspect. And that value remains in how it can benefit people, how it can impact humanity, how it can impact, more importantly, what we are looking at in India, especially how it can improve productivity at all levels. We have seen how various tools helps each one of us become more productive. But if that productivity thing is like transformed to say 700 million people in India who are doing various jobs, whether in MSME or whether in agriculture or whether in farming, whatever activity, if they all, each individual becomes more productive by using these AI tools, it will ultimately impact the world economy, it will impact the Indian economy in a big way. So we'll try to identify which are the sectors that are going to be impacted positively and what can be also the adverse effects of AI, like whether it's on jobs, whether it requires reskilling, whether it requires upskilling, impact of AI on individuals, impact of AI on communities, impact of AI on society, impact of AI on nations, impact of AI on democracy, the issues of deepfakes, misinformation. So all these things will be various themes, and many of these themes will impact impacts not only India but the entire global community. So we will try to create groups much in advance of the summit, which will be very representative, which will be inclusive, in the sense that it will have representation from not only governments but industry and academia and civil society stakeholders. It will have representative from countries, the global south, and together we will try to identify the agenda which will be addressed in that summit. And we will have to do a lot of pre-summit work in order to ensure that we are able to come to a declaration. Declaration is just a formal adoption of what has happened in all these years. So I know the French side went through a lot, and especially Henri is here, and we worked a lot on the governance framework. So in fact, I was discussing with him just before the summit, is that what we will do is we will start from where we had reached. It will not be that we will be reinventing the wheel. So the world has moved a lot forward on various agenda items, whether it's the UN High-Level Advisory Committee on AI or whether where we reached in the French summit. So we will move a step ahead from this, and hopefully we'll be able to bring around consensus. In the days to come, we'll be looking forward to getting a lot of inputs from all of you here in the hall and otherwise, and to get the concrete ideas, suggestions, in order to make it a truly inclusive and successful summit.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Seems like there are 3 C's here. You want continuity, there seems to be some clarity of vision, and eventually we want consensus. On that note, can we have a round of applause for this panel?